Universes. Today I'm gonna do a deck tech. All right, Hello Universes. Today I'm gonna do a deck tech for this deck that I played in the team side event at the Denver Regional. We didn't have deck lists required for this event, so this is actually the deck that I'm pulling out of my bag and trying to reconstruct exactly what I played in there from memory slightly. And yeah, I figured let me just let me click on, walk through, let me walk through the process of actually filing this into UVS Ultra, and it'll be a good opportunity to talk through the cards, kind of in a to show this isn't exactly how I build decks, but it's actually not that far off really. So let's get to it. So it was a Hange Four-Eyes deck. Uh, this is titled Anti-Nick Weapon. So the story of why I decided for this deck was shout out to Caden who played Hanji in the main event and is almost the talk of the one of the top talks of the tournament, playing his very aggressive turn two kills Hanji Zoe Four-Eyes deck, kind of almost a polar opposite, opposite end of the spectrum from what I played at Worlds, which is a very long game oriented controlling Hanji, so to speak. But the beauty of this character, they can do anything. They can do short games, long games, whatever you want. And their deck was built around combined firepower. So actually, let's do actions and assets because I have these filtered out here on the table in front of me. I've got the actual cards, which I'll show some of them to you when I have cool alt arts to talk about. This is really a hybrid pile of what I had in my bag and kind of hybridizing some ideas I discarded for Worlds. Actually, kind of really two ideas I discarded for my Worlds deck, which we'll get to once I scroll down to them. Actually, I probably already scrolled past what the heck? Oh, this is death. I do have some life attuned cards. That's right. So let's get this one first. So we actually played this Replicator Enthusiast package, but I liked. I glanced at my cards and thought all of them were only death attuned, which is not actually quite precisely correct. Um, so we had, but yeah, we had combined firepower. This was in back to previous season? I discarded the idea of playing Hanji as a firepower deck with Knott's Flask as well. I discarded Hanji as a firepower deck just because I thought I want to. Hanji provides lots of damage in the first place, and I wanted attacks that had high speed, and also plays great defense. And I didn't want to dilute my deck with kind of weird low impact cards like avoiding conflict or like um, a lot of the bing bongy cards that are in this space. Let me double check. This is everything. Yes, we have firepower, we have avoiding conflict, we have Knots Flask, and we have some replicators, which were some of my spice from the opposite direction. Caden's deck, it, skip that stuff. Skipped the other card, the other end of that spectrum. Button Collector, which let's go pull in Button Collector next. So this is kind of the natural dialogue of this deck. Let's do Descending Difficulty Foundations, and we can just scroll through and click on all these that I know are in my deck. Yeah, so I played a set of Enormous Axe. This is a crazy good card in Hanji in general. And let's click on 4X Button Collector. Yes, this is the other end of. Scroll back up. Let's pull up the deck so far. Um, yeah, so this combination of Hanji with Replicator Enthusiast and Button Collector. The big joke is, and let's finish the rest of this package. Let's go Falling Heel Strike, which is I know I asked Caden and is explicitly a card he rejected from his deck, but it's really funny when you have Button Collector going. So this little three piece, you put Button Collector on your stage. It says E commit draw card. This is not a turn two kill card. It says it gives you card advantage and lets you keep using Hanji's enhance. Lets you draw into things. If you start your kill turn, the expected value of that if you have 1 in 3 attacks in your deck is 1 in 3 cards in your deck is an attack, which is ultimately in the neighborhood of where we'll land. This is actually kind of poor expected value. Commit a foundation for draw 1/3 of an attack. Like I guess the attack's really good. Maybe anyway. Um, but yeah, when we're drawing 2 or 3 cards, this is a big burst of resources and lets you sort of keep fueling Hanji. But this is going to be too complicated to explain. This is like another video. So let's leave it at. This is a cool package. We're basically trying to assemble multiple button collectors. We're trying to reuse our button collectors after they commit and flip is the key part of this. If you draw 2 cards with this, you draw one for each copy of button collector. If you draw two or more, you have to flip it, and so your card goes away, your resource goes away, it goes face down. But we can unflip it. We can replicate it to get a second one. Even just replicating enormous axe is really really good. This lets you and so it's kind of it's not just that you add more button collectors, it's that you add your button collectors can draw into Replicator Enthusiast, which then have for a very low cost of enhance remove on a 2 diff, uh, and also giving your opponent foundation, though, you can build an enormous axe, which might be 4 damage, and if whether it's 4 damage or just +1 to a control check, you then sacrifice to Hanji, get a new foundation, and so you effectively give this haste in the magic parlance. Um, so you draw a card, and you immediately cash it out to a onboard resource that lets you pass control checks to play your attacks. Um, so I'm pretty sure that's all my 3 diffs. So we're gonna scroll past. Yeah, we declined Invincible Body. We had actually I know I had 2 Desperate Struggles, 3 Desperate Struggles in the sideboard. I added these later. I added these to a different iteration of the deck. This is the card I am a big fan of. A big, almost a reason to play Hanji is that she plays this card quite well. Or safety fours. This card's really well positioned these days in the format. Um, yeah, I know I skipped Keiko's Aid. I know I had 3 Loss of Consciousness main where Caden only had that in the sideboard, but really really good card. Triggers firepower. I had 2x League Interview, which I'll talk about. Well, yeah. So another big departure from Caden's deck is I was playing, still had some weapon clashes. This is I kind of didn't play the rest of the Greater Role kind of in Greater Role Immortal Shapeshifter Weapon Clash kind of Exodia package that was I think almost the centerpiece of my Worlds deck. But we still wanted this as either kind of a split card, right? It says on turn 2, if you attack me, I might flip this and just say I'm going to be very strong on the next turn, or it's a defensive resource, sack foundations, stretch out your life level. It's pretty cool like that. That's all I had. So let's take the interview as a jumping off point to talk about Caden's deck and sort of let's talk about size. Size matters in universes, and see, actually, this is a tight 60 card deck. It is a small size, and yeah, we have a 4 diff attack, 4 diff attack, 4 diff attack. This is a fake. I call this. I think this is a fake 4 difficulty. It's an attack that does not count towards progressive or takes itself out of progressive difficulty unless you're at 3 or less life. Uh, so effectively, it's another cheap attack. We have Thunder Spear is a 4 difficulty, becomes 3 diff sometimes. You can even knock your life total down further with Dual Needle Lunge. And then Colossus Swat says 6 on the tin, but it builds 2. So you can kind of think of this as a 6 with a 2 point refund. Hanji also refunds you foundations. You can stack 2 to ready this card, ready this resource that can pay for control checks, and also can build cards into your stage, which pay for control checks. So this is almost like the smallest. This is the smallest Hanji deck I've seen in the sense of the attack difficulty, the kind of agility, the ability to put a handful of attacks to work on a single turn. And this is very much at the opposite end of the spectrum from my World Championship deck. Go to 2025 tournament decks on UVS Ultra, first place here. 7 difficulty, 6 difficulty, 9 difficulty, 7 difficulty, 8 difficulty, a couple fours and another 8. This deck did not like to. This deck like to take its time and get a big stage before it could try to attack. Caden's deck attacks on 2 all the time, and I'm kind of frankly, I didn't have my battle order releases handy at this regional. I didn't have all the collection on me, so we had to improvise around the absence of this card for my deck list. I didn't have Jaw Jammers. I didn't have latent skills. And I said, well, let me look at what else I've got in my bag that I can work with. And that's really where this deck came from. I had set aside. Why did I have Falling Heel Strikes? Actually, I think this might have just been from a broadly, I'd been considering playing Casino Combined Firepower Mirko in the main event, and so I had a bunch of death stuff. I had my Hanji deck from Worlds still on me, and I had a variety of stuff in this space. So, but didn't have the skills, which probably would have made it a bad Mirko deck. Um, so this is a little bit rambly. Yeah, click on that. Yeah, so the deck I built for teams, let's get that. Let's get into. I think So I said jumping off point, league interview. Uh, let's pull up my attacks next, and we'll keep this descending difficulty on death symbol. So I started with I knew I wanted to play Colossus SWAT. That was a big piece of exciting opportunity. I thought the Colossus SWAT plus Colossus SWAT, Sweeping Daggers package was a lot of new stuff I hadn't played with, and I said, well, this was clearly successful. Let's see what can make sense. Let me improvise some stuff and play some fun pet cards or whatever. Yeah, the other end of this was that I was playing 4x True 100% Unleashed. I figured if I don't have these battle auras that are the very efficient, up to 11 damage for 4 difficulty plus draw card is really wild. Um, I wanted to be the other end of the spectrum, and I wanted to have an attack that got a lot of speed. Hanji doesn't give speed, so if you just are knocking on the door of a character like Rodan or something, it's really trivial for him to just to put a he just has to guess the block zones and line them up, and it's really, really trivial for him to block forever. Even a character like Ghidorah could easily block out a bunch of 4 speed attacks if he's playing at all defensive. This makes it stressful. This makes it challenging to just try to play that way. And then the other card that I introduced to this deck that I think is actually pretty much, I think is probably a card that you go in a lot of Hanji decks if you're in this space is, yeah, 2x Irwin's Final Charge. I actually picked these up from the Rochester CCG booth. I'm going to flex these a little bit. We picked up the very pretty uh, Pearl and Obsidian iterations of these guys. Let's get this in the frame actually. We got Colossus SWAT. This is not lit well at all. Horrible. Colossus SWAT, and we have the Banger. Uh, Doing this with my hands reversed is wild, actually. Holy crap! How do people do this? With practice, I suppose. Okay, so that's that. This is this. This into the camera. Yeah, Irwin's Final Charge. Beautiful. This beautiful manga panel of the moment where he is struck by a rock and wounded during the final charge. Um, yeah, so I like speed. I like my attacks to be challenging to block, and this deck on turn 2, you have Colossus SWAT 5 speed attack, low zone. Those are it's very much a mix up. But then we have that opposite our dual needle lunges, our falling heel strikes, our battle aura releases, which I eventually did put in this deck. Apparently, maybe I just lied about not having those for that tournament, or if I no, yeah, yeah. So I played this in my locals, and I fished up the battle auras to play with it at locals. Um, I know I had Luna Ring. That was the card I was not impressed with. I put those in the main deck as in part to cover against vertical maneuvering equipment. Is a scary card if we're trying to outspeed people. They can just vertical maneuvering. I'm surprised that I'm seeing this again here, but let's scroll on down. Luna Ring. I had 3x, and this yeah did not perform well. I was hoping that I could do some stuff with like just 3 attacks into Luna Ring, but if they weren't already in checkmate, the giant size of the Luna Ring didn't matter very much in those spots, and it was just 4 speed, eminently blockable, and so it just did not work out too well. But this trying to do a deck report on what I actually played in teams, and not what I am playing now in local pickup games. Did I scroll past Dual Needle Lunge? Okay, I did not. Great. I know all the rest of my attacks were 4 difficulty though, so I had yeah as the thesis of the deck and the thesis of what was going to be the Mirko idea was that I wanted to play. I just scrolled past this too, didn't I? Did I? What is the order of these cards on this thing right now? Um, Sweeping Daggers, yeah, Fork Sweeping Daggers. And the to me almost the way I understand this card for Hanji, the reason this card's exciting in Hanji, it says 5 speed and then it can blitz gain abilities and keywords of an attack from your opponent's discard pile. Uh, Often this will get at least stun 2 in value out of that. And if we can have a stun 2 attack on for 4 difficulty, that would be crazy good for Hanji. That would be all we want to do with Hanji is supplement that +3 damage from the face enhance, +3 here, add some stun twos on that, add some zone mix ups. Let's say I had 3 of these. That seems more correct. Um, and yeah, we have mid, we have high, we have very fast mid, we have very fast mid, we have low with powerful 4, which I completely forgot about. And then I have falling heel strike. Kaden has some. Yeah, he has some throw zone attacks that are technically high, and then he's got. Yeah, I know I played my exactly 1x Hanji's Thunder Spear, so let's say destroyed should sacrificed. Difficulty exact equals 4. Life Attune, that's right. Let's just say attacks with exactly the Life Attune on it. Yeah, I know I had exactly one of this because I had exactly one Pearl rarity that I had played in my World deck, which I will now also show to the camera. We're blinging it out a little bit in this deck, just sensibly. Uh, if I open it in a pack, maybe I'll play it in bling. Um, Yeah, so I know I had exactly the funny number. I had one less than 70 cards in my deck. I had 24 attacks. That seems about correct, within 12 of these being non-attack cards. And let's fill in my spam foundations. So let's go difficulty less than 2, and it's just search like that. We'll take off a life tune. We need not attacks. I played yeah, 4x of the Pushing the Limits. This was a card I rejected from my slow long game deck, but I think actually made a lot of sense here in the fast small Hanji deck. We've got two risky gambles. I only went down to two, but the deadlock threat is good in every format in every deck. The response draw card is still cool. Not necessarily great for killing your opponent, as we talked about, as I kind of rambled about with Button Collector earlier, but um, still quite good. I'm with you. Crazy, crazy card in Hanji. Absolute staple. I skipped the unabashed manners. I'm pretty sure we had 4x hostile introduction, which yeah, again skipped in worlds. Only played 3x of Botan's coaching, kind of on the thesis of just efficiency, higher impact cards in the bigger deck, the longer game deck. But here we wanted we're trying to get our opponent dead, so it makes sense to play a lot of these zero diffs, and also we're not playing quite so many four checks. We're playing more three checks, and so the zero diffs have more value in terms of just getting your turn one builds going safely. Was that it? At the end of my spams already? Yeah, we got that. We got draws. Yeah, that's all we got here. So let's see if this is the correct size that I know it should be. Got 35 against this is like 67, 71. Interesting. And that's yeah, excluding a character. Yeah, 59. Yeah, plus two. Okay, so okay, that's it's probably only two lootering. I don't. Yeah, let's see. We have yeah two flask. Yes, 10 plus two actions and assets. Yeah, but this is the deck I played in teams in. Let's say roughly the deck I played in teams uh, in the Denver regional teams event. I went 201. I took a unintentional draw against. I was fortunate to escape with an unintentional draw against top eight competitor Barlow's Tarion deck, who was great to play against the guy who helped me build my own main event deck and see sort of his take on the deck in action and get to see it. I was yeah fortunate to escape with a draw as we got a big kill turn in one game and we're kind of like really kind of pulled a rabbit out of a hat, getting a very big string at the right time to close out a game where I was a little bit behind, a little bit flailing, just throwing attacks into Tarian's great ability to block and reduce speed. We had some clutch Lunar Ring acid destruction, uh, which I don't think even really helped punch the hole. It was just kind of I drew the handful of attacks at the right time. Lost game two, and then game three I went all in to try to get something happening as time wore down. Um, Missed, passed with zero cards in hand, and he had a lot of badges in play and needed anything to any top tick attack would be able to deal lethal. He peeled his cards off one at a time. Six foundations, runner, 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 and yeah, so we take those in the bank for sure. But it felt unfavorable, felt like a bad time. Probably could have had better chances if I was even faster iteration of this deck than sort of this slower, bigger idea. Because we're still kind of relying on our opponent not to have the zones. If they have vertical maneuvering equipment, this deck is very sad. Uh, but then my last two matches, we actually paired me into the deck that knocked me out of the singles competition. I paired Hanji into Nick Reagan, and they were interesting games. They were varied games. They were unpredictable games, certainly, as Nick Reagan games tend to be, but just Hanji's damage reduction, Hanji's ability to uh, goldfish enormous sums of damage, some of them on zone mix-ups, some of them with high speed, and Snake Reagan's five hand size. And then also my ability to defend with -3 damage with some good block zones. If I can call out a block zone, I can usually make that block. And if he's like sun running into 200% smashes, I can minus damage them here, minus damage them with weapon clash, and find the I'm with yous and use the not flasks to mitigate the damage there. I actually went 4-0 in games against those Nick Reagans, and to close out teams and get two wins that my team needed to pick up those. Ultimately, we went 3-0 in matches with every player on the team getting two wins and one draw in different rounds. It was kind of a hilarious outcome. And yeah, this is the Hanji deck I used to kind of bounce between Caden's, I think, clear vision of really aggro Hanji and my World Championship deck that was all four checks and crazy stuff like this. Sweeping Daggers is very much the real deal in this deck. Definitely one of the matches with Nick was ultimately decided on. He had an Always Cool. He used Always Cool to block the damage of my first Sweeping Daggers, and then I had a second Sweeping Daggers and used it to take a Patrick Baby or 200% and put him in the ground that way.